The palace of Weirin was covered in the shadows filled with ghosts. There lived 3 princes. The first prince Sarion was bright as he was sickly, the second prince Garion was skilled at martial arts, and the third Shiniel had a beauty that could captivate even the most wicked of ghosts. However, due to his devious position, he seduced the king's concubine, and made her bear his child. The king was furious and the baby abandoned overnight. He's the protagonist of this story. Her name is Princess Soru. Unable to kill a child of his own blood, he had her raised by the lowest of servants, and gave her the name Soru, which means tears and troubles, for she was born from tears and was a cause of concern, but her troubles had just begun. Day in, and day out, she would holler about her hallucinations. The king ordered that she be imprisoned and starved to death. He thought that all had been settled until the 10th day. The palace was devastated by a bolt of lightning. Surprisingly, the princess survived unscathed. That's when something eerie happened. A bizarre tune started to play. It goes, if a monster eats Princess Soru, they will be granted a new body, and become human. Thus, the demons fought over her, but the most hideous monster of them all, gobble up the others, leaving no place in his stomach for the princess, so he stole her eyes, and fled somewhere far away. She wakes from a dream, fearing something horrible will happen again, while the monsters circle her like Volher. We then see our male lead Jaeyeon, walking in the corridor, while Bir Young called out to him. He hits the wall, after fighting for a year in the battlefield, because the king had promised him the princess. We see him kneeling before the king asking for him to keep his promise, of making him his son-in-law. He says, I promised you a princess, not Garin, take Soru instead. Bir Young asked if he will stage a revolt. He says he won't stand for this embarrassment. He responds the king can't mistreat him anymore. He gets angry and says he's treated like a mutt, but that is because he lacks power. His social skills are unremarkable and he is the son of a declining military family. That is the real reason he went to the battlefield. However, even if it's just for show, marrying a princess will make him royalty. Soon no one will be able to look down on him. He flings him away. Since getting involved with the ghost princess means death, he's adamant that he will never get married to the ghost princess. Bir Young sighs. He asked if he's willing to forsake the innocent to destroy a single foe. He's not saying to give up on revenge, but instead if he doesn't like the princess he should just send her away, and once he gains power, he can make Garin his wife. With great fury he says the king will pay for a toying with him. In an old rundown house, we see the Princess Soru, surrounded by demons. She offers them her body, but they say it's been forbidden, so instead they decide to attack one of the servants. She begs for death, she just wants the innocent to live. The demons laugh as they taunt and surround her in aura as red as blood. Suddenly she hears the voice of a human, who says the king is calling her. The light shines on her face. She thinks that King Garyun has finally decided to kill her. They help her walk. As they whispered about getting curse, she smiles as they take her away. When she arrived she closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was well groomed and dressed. She grabbed the hand of a servant and asked what's happening. She nervously says we're preparing you for your wedding to Jaeyeon. She says he must have committed a crime. The servant's Bowen says, he is a war hero, who has asked for your hand in marriage. She doesn't believe them, because Princess Garin is said to be as beautiful as an angel from heaven, so it's reasonable to assume that he asked for her hand in marriage first, but the king is unwilling to give her up. She pities him. Although he saved the country, his only reward will be death. The servants finish with her accessories. As they bring her to the wedding hall, she wondered why she was born, and decided after the wedding she will ask to be sent far away, and maybe the demons will leave him alone. Suddenly a bright light destroys all the demons, that is emanating from her husband. In an alleyway we see a man covered in blood with golden eyes. They informed him that all the demons had disappeared, and ask if they should continue as planned. He says yes, he can no longer wait, he is starving. When the princess entered the wedding hall, Jaeyeon was surprised. She is smaller and looks more normal than he expected. She looked into his eyes and King Garyun belittled her for not knowing common etiquette. There were rumors of her being mistreated, but that is none of his concern, because he's going to send her away. The ceremony is close to its end. A guard opens the gate. The townspeople look at him in shock. This fills him with dread. Some of them pity, chastise, and gossip him. He jumps off his horse, and yells at the king, but his words are interrupted by rebels. They attack the people and the servants. They run away hitting the box the princess is in. She senses that the demons are going berserk as she looked outside. One of the demons grab her. It says it is following orders. Jaeyeon then cuts its head off, covering the princess in blood. He walks past her, as she stares in shock of a human that not only makes demons disappear, but can cut them with swords. He joins the others in battle. One of the demons tried to attack him from behind, but he swiftly aimed at the demon's neck. He thinks they are suspicious, their clothing and behavior is unfamiliar. Could this really be a rebellion? Well, he doesn't care. He was in the mood for a fight. Soldiers watch him from a distance. He calls out to them, says, "Don't tell me you're scared of a fight. Draw your swords." He calls Bir Young, who rushes in. Suddenly the building caught on fire. The demons used this chance to run away. Jiyan thought of chasing them, but decided not to. Since the fire could spread to the city, he orders the guards to extinguish the fire and capture any strugglers they may find. Bir Young praises him and say they rely more on him than their commanding officer. He thinks it's better to be admired than be given sympathy. He jokes with him, then he sees Jiyan's wife. She's in the ground. Someone is running and steps on her fingers. She turns her head confused. He is upset by the sight. Bir Young asks if he won't help her. He retort he'll be sending her far away, so he does not want to get close. The princess then asks if he'll really send her far away. He stops and with teary eyes she begs to stay. He gives her a harsh reply. He never wanted her to be his wife. He's become the laughing stock of the kingdom. Whenever he sees her his blood begins to boil. So she should live like a corpse and stay in line. He didn't walk away. Bir Young is not sure what to make of the situation. With a blurry vision, she grabs his sleeve. She knows he doesn't want her. She doesn't expect to be treated like his wife. However, she still wants to remain by his side. All she asks for is a small place to stay. He swings his arm away and calls her selfish. They say just standing next to her is a death sentence. Even her own family avoids her for this reason. However, he misunderstood. Never in her life has she seen someone shine as brightly as him. He's right, everyone around her dies. The woman who raised her was torn to shreds, and the only person who was kind to her had her neck snap. She feels her sins are beyond reckoning, that she deserves to live like a corpse. Even so, if she can remain by his side, she can finally live like a normal human being. She kneels and begs for him to help her. He looked at her with pity. Bir Young says he is going to need her for his revenge, so it makes sense to keep her around. She then says she can be useful. She takes his hand and bites her lip. His hand instantly healed. That is her power. Her blood can heal any wound. The demons had told her that her blood is spirit water, and her flesh is the elixir. He tried to yell, but Bir Young interrupts, saying her gift will be of great help in the future. He taps his shoulders and says her husband may be rough around the edges, but he's a good person. Jiyan tries to protest, but Bir Young whispers for him to think carefully if he wants to overthrow the king. He reluctantly accepts her. She glows with happiness, however, in one condition. She must not expect to be treated as the wife of the house. She thanks him and says she won't ask for anything more. He's confused and why she's happy when she's the one being used. In a house, two demons ask their leader Yato, what is the plan, since they can't go near the princess because of that man. One of the demons says they fail because they followed his plan. Yato swiftly took his heart and ate it. The other demon backed away in fear. He ordered the demon to wait until the right moment. He then says the hunger he feel won't go away unless it's Soru. At Jiyan home, a line of people wait to get in his favor. Because of this, he is swamped in workload. As his lieutenant plays around, Bir Young says from the time he made the king his enemy he has been working harder. Jiyan says he must have done it for himself. He sits down and says just because the number of guests increase doesn't mean it will be enough. They must continue to maintain that power. Although he could be making this too complicated. However, King Gar Yun is probably thinking the same. Jiyan is the main focus of the public at the moment, but it won't last long. Bir Young suggests he beg for forgiveness. He gets angered by the thought. Bir Young smirks and gives him a list of influential figures that he must get on his side. Jiyan thinks that now that he has fallen out of the king's grace, many people will not follow him. However, now he has the princess, and the list before him only contains individuals that are sick with their health or have family with bad health. They'll come running like dogs as long as we have a way to cure them. Jiyan asked if he didn't feel sorry for the ghost princess. He responds that's and prophet. What do you have feelings for her? He responds that he hasn't looked at her face, even once after the wedding. He says that's good and asked him to make the decision. He hesitates for a moment, before telling him to do as he wish. He leaves to spread the word. Before he left, he told him to treat her well. It would be the end of everything, if she got hurt and decided to leave. In a house, we see the ghost princess. The servant Yom brings a wash basin to wash her. She asked if she's not sad that the master didn't visit once. She responds he took her in when he didn't want to. He is her savior. From the time of her birth, this is the first time she has been treated with so much respect. In the past, except for the occasional wind, she could only hear her thoughts of worrying about what if someone dies, until he came and showed her the light. He has her endless gratitude. The servant had only listened to rumors and thought she was a scary person, but she is just She asks if there's a way to make her more comfortable. Soru responds if it's not too shameless, she would like flowers. She said she'll bring as much flower seeds as she can find. Jaeyeon ordered them to bring Soru immediately. A servant was hit in the head by a horse. There's a little chance that he'll recover, but it is a good opportunity to test her ability. If she's able to heal him, she'll have no problem healing those on the list. A servant brings her. She beams with joy. He thinks she looks like a child just in a lady's outfit. He grabs her hand and says he has something for her to do. He shows her the patient. He asked if she can heal him. She says she never dealt with such a serious case. He tells her to leave. She begs him to at least let her try. He agrees, but feels as if he harassed her. He gives her a knife and says it will be more effective. She slashed her palm. He grabbed her hand and asked what she's doing. She says healing his wound. He tells her to continue. She places her bleeding hand on the wound. She looks nervous as he asks, did it work? She tells him to check. He's surprised that it is completely healed. Her power transcends human ability. Then he noticed that she is unable to heal herself. He feels guilty. She then says if he's not healed she can try again. He pets her on the head and tells her good job. She gets flustered and asks if she was of any help. He assures her she was very helpful, although he wondered why she smiles so beautifully. When she had to injure herself, he leaves and says he will send someone to escort her back, and medicine will also be sent. He tells Bir Young everything. He says they must write to the #1 candidate immediately. He is known as the finest merchant in Wiran, but currently his daughter is ill from a mysterious disease. Once he's on their side he won't have to worry about money. He thinks about her wound, but thinks it would be silly to get emotional at this time. Bir Young says he should write. He has a potent elixir so he should visit. There would be a problem if the princess powers gets out, so keep the details short. Later that night he arrives with his daughter in hand. He puts her on the bed and asks them to sell him the elixir. He says it's not something that can be bought or sold. Bir Young whispered for him to think of something better. Little did he know that Jaeyeon had no idea what he was talking about. He called for Soru. The merchant is scared. Then she entered. He says there's someone he wants her to heal. He guides her towards the sick child. The merchant tries to protest, but one look from Jaeyeon and he became mute. She cuts her hand and gives him blood. He hits her hand, takes the child. He says he will never return. Then she speaks father. He stares in disbelief with teary eyes. He thanks her. Soru says she's only glad she could help. He cannot understand that face. He tries to protect what is his, while she hurting herself, and being used left and right, so how come she can still smile? Bir Young sensing his anger calmed him down. He sends the merchant to the room next door. He tells her to get some rest. However, she is curious to know if she was of any help. He's worried about her wound, and say that's why I told you to turn in for the night. She thanks him. He is stunned. She continues by saying because of him her futile wishes have finally come through. Even though she caused him great suffering and humiliation, he took her and she thanks him again. His heart starts to beat real fast. He slammed the door and walked away. He wondered why she made him feel this way.